Well, hello and thank you for joining me for another Alex on Tech and iTWireTV interview. Today, I'm joined by Ross Thompson. He's the CEO of privately owned IT asset lifecycle management company, Greenbox. Welcome to the program.
Thanks, Alex. Absolute pleasure to be here.
Thank you for taking the time. Now, before we go a bit further, can you please go into a little more depth about Greenbox and the products and services that you offer in Australia and New Zealand?
Sure thing. Thanks, Alex. Greenbox is an organization that provides cradle-to-grave IT asset solutions, from initial new IT asset deployments for large corporate, government, and tertiary institutions, all the way through to the management of end-of-life assets. The business has been operating for close to 22 odd years now, and was one of the first market movers in Australia to identify how critically important it is to manage electronic assets in a safe, secure, and sustainable way. There have been a number of significant milestones and firsts along the way, with Greenbox now having 5 operating facilities across Australia and New Zealand that service thousands of sensitive assets daily. We have 20 ISO certifications, and our facilities are all also R2 certified against the global peak body standard, which is run by SERI, which stands for Sustainable Electronics Recycling International. This particular R2 certification holds Greenbox accountable to a higher standard than any other global peak bodies and certifications, and the auditing process is particularly rigorous and resource consuming along the way. Having these standards obviously gives our local and global customers and partners around the world the peace of mind that their critical and sensitive assets are handled by globally best practice processes. So there's a little bit of an introduction.
Sure. Now, as our civilization has become more technologically advanced and aware of how our actions affect life on Earth in many ways, good and bad, environmental awareness has grown in leaps and bounds. So why is this so important to our community now? And clearly you, recognized this a long time ago, because you had a business set up to do this, 2 decades ago.
Sure. Well, look, firstly, science doesn't lie. And I challenge anyone who might be a climate change skeptic to spend some time reading through the United Nations panel on climate change report that came out last year. In the report, which drew from more than 14,000 scientific studies from a significant amount of countries around the world, it was quite clear that temperatures and seas will keep on rising and weather is getting more extreme. We have very clear evidence of that here in Australia, almost on a daily basis. So I suppose the first bit of advice is not to get your climate change advice from social media influencers on Twitter and Instagram, and take your time to read through peer-reviewed expert papers on the subject. Secondly, although technology keeps us more connected than ever, and the benefits to humanity are clearly significant, its impact on the environment can also be quite devastating. And we see the effects, if not handled the right way, to be quite detrimental to different regions around the world. According to a number of reports that have been produced by global peak bodies recently, the amount of e-waste expected to be dumped into landfills around the world this year will be a staggering 57 million tons, which, according to that particular, or one of those particular forums, equates to more than the Great Wall of China. To put that into perspective, the Great Wall of China is 21,000 kilometers long, which is also roughly the circumference of Australia. So that's the equivalent of the Great Wall of China worth of e-waste going into landfill every single year. That's astounding. Australians are actually some of the biggest users of technology in the world, generating 21 kilograms of e-waste roughly per person per year. And whilst 95% of e-waste can typically be recycled, less than 18% of it actually is. Rather ironically, e-waste contains some of the critical mineral inputs and renewable assets like solar panels and wind turbines require, such as steel, copper, aluminium, and rare earth metals, all of which can be found in abundance in e-waste products and will assist us to further decarbonize the earth as we move forward.
Now, our understanding is that Greenbox is the first ITAD or IT asset disposition company in Australia, and maybe even the world, to go 100% carbon neutral, which is an even higher standard. So, when did you make this decision, and why? I guess you've explained why, but how long ago did you decide to do this?
Well, look, Greenbox was already a sustainability leader before obtaining carbon neutrality. We've managed to mitigate 65 million kilograms of CO2 emissions from going out into the atmosphere by redirecting those assets and recycling and reusing them around the world over the last 20 years. That 65 million kilogram number roughly equates to about 7 million households' energy over a 1-year period, which is huge. Roughly 12 months ago, we embarked on this process because I knew that more could be done, and that by obtaining carbon neutral status through an established federal government organization that we use, such as Climate Active, we could educate our customers, partners, and employees, and even families on what benefits it could have for all of them for many years to come. So that's fundamentally the reason that we decided to embark on this journey, because we wanted to do more, even though we were already a sustainability leader.
Now, well, you've just explained what some of the benefits are, obviously, to the planet. But what are some of the other benefits to you? I mean, clearly, it's great to be having this capability and offering it. It sets you apart from your competitors. But what are some of the benefits for your customers and the technologies you provide in terms of the choices, I guess, that you use in servicing those technologies and recycling them?
Sure, Alex. Look, I mean, fundamentally, being carbon neutral means that all of the lifecycle services that we provide don't lead to any negative impacts on our customers' carbon ledgers. So large corporate, government, and tertiary institutions now have significantly more rigorous ESG reporting requirements than they ever have. Mm-hmm. And by contracting with a supplier like Greenbox, who have already been through that entire process, which once again was particularly rigorous and time consuming, they're able to report with confidence that all of their IT lifecycle services that we're able to provide do not have a significant impact or a negative impact at all on their carbon inventory. So this increased environmental, social, and governance reporting that is required is only going to become more and more significant after the Australian federal government recently legislated to reduce greenhouse gases by 43% below 2005 levels by 2030, which is a 15 percentage point increase on Australia's previous 2030 target. This new commitment by the new government should actually be applauded, I believe, because Australia has had over a decade worth of no activity and dysfunctional policy when it comes to government legislation, which has made us the laughing stock of the world, when actually we should be leading the world in the sustainability space. We've got the best renewable resources in the world, so we shouldn't be a laggard. In terms of benefits to the Greenbox team as an extension, they are plentiful. I mean, one example that of the benefit for our employees of us being early adopters, that we're able to attract and retain the very best talent who actually see value in what we've done in terms of attaining this carbon neutrality status. So there's been a pretty good uptake and interest along the way from our employees in terms of the status that we've obviously just achieved.
So it's not just about carbon neutral supply chains, as you explained, but also great talent. But you're also working on carbon neutrality by improving internal efficiency. So what's a bit more detail on that?
Yes, the best form of recycling is reuse. And if the technology can't be reused, then it can be recycled or refurbished. So we're across all of these considerations in our daily operations, and have also invested in energy efficiency upgrades and renewable solutions in our processes and facilities, and will continue to do so. Electric vehicle freight, on-site energy storage, and other considerations are all factors in our roadmap moving forward as well.
So with ESG quite a big thing these days, how much demand are you seeing from your customers to also go carbon neutral?
We're certainly seeing a lot of new and existing customers wanting to deal with carbon neutral service providers such as Greenbox. And at the same time, a lot of our customers, partners, and suppliers have been asking us over the last couple weeks about what process we went through to obtain the certification, as they clearly see benefits for their organizations as well. Obtaining the status definitely has had a multiplier effect, and the more people who know about it, the better for our communities, businesses, and future as a whole. So I'm always more than happy to provide feedback on the journey that we've been through as an organization to obtain this status.
Sure. Now, you also mentioned Climate Active before. So can you give us a bit more detail about who they are and what role they've played in getting the carbon neutrality certification?
So Climate Active is the Australian federal agency that has provided our organization and services that we offer with carbon neutral certifications after the lengthy program that we've been through. We've also consulted with a number of different industry and market experts along the way who've helped us to obtain this certification. So Climate Active is the federal governing body that actually oversees this entire process.
And what else are you doing to be environmentally friendly? You did mention electric vehicles and the environmental lighting, but what about carbon offset programs?
Yeah, look, I mean, I touched on the EVs, as you mentioned, renewables as well, on-site energy storage a little bit earlier as well. But we're also proudly supporting an Australian forest regeneration project that will deliver over 1 million tons in emission reductions over the next decade. The Mumbadari project has very strong indigenous groundings and has also helped the traditional custodians of the land regain a connection to their traditional country, and also provides local employment opportunities to the communities involved. As an organization, Greenbox is extremely proud of both the social impact initiatives of this project as well as the environmental benefits of this particular project, with more information to be shared with the public in the months ahead.
So how else do you see Greenbox evolving over the next couple of years, both as a company and in your carbon neutral efforts?
Sure. I mean, we have quite significant global growth ambitions over the next few years, and this involves transferring the knowledge that we've gained on this journey into the new territories that we enter around the world. Over the years, we've continuously reinvested in our people and facilities, and we'll continue to do that with a positive environmental and social impact in mind in everything that we do. There's always more that can be done in relation to reducing our impact on the planet, and I see Greenbox being a leader in this space as a competitive advantage that we leverage for many years to come, as we continue to reinvest in our processes and our people and forge ahead as the market leaders.
And how has this rubbed off on your employees? I mean, how have they internalized it and made greater efforts in their own personal lives?
Sure. Look, I mean, throughout this process, our employees have been very supportive, although admittedly early on, I think that some might have been a little bit confused initially as to why we were investing all of this time and energy into this process, which didn't necessarily have any tangible returns in their minds early on. Education and transparency of communication are key to turn these misunderstandings around. And now that we've actually obtained this carbon neutrality and this new status, we've had quite a significant increase in the engagement around sustainability matters, with employees now wanting to know more about the measures that we've taken and the projects that we've invested in to get us to where we currently are. This is obviously fantastic because it has a multiplier effect, as I've sort of touched on a little bit earlier, with them passing on this positive reinforcement information to their families and communities moving forward.
Now, I'd just like to end on a couple of personal questions. And one of my favorite ones is just to ask, can you please share a memory of your first computer?
Yeah, this is a little bit of a difficult one for me, having been brought up in Central Africa, because I think the first computers arrived in Central Africa around the sort of mid-80s. But I can confirm that my first mobile phone was a Motorola, and that was followed by an impossible to destroy Nokia 5110 in the mid-90s. I could literally defend myself with it or use it as a cricket bat if I wanted. So a little bit of history there on the electronics front from my side.
Yeah, I think we need to bring some of these indestructible technologies back. Apple just launched the Apple Watch Ultra, but where's the iPhone Ultra that can be used as a cricket bat?
Fully agree. I think we need more.
Yeah, and my second last question is to ask if you could please share some of the best advice you've received in life to help you get where you are today.
Sure thing, happy to. So get good mentors on board as early as you can, as they've already experienced the peaks and troughs that you'll definitely experience in your career, which will help you better prepare for success in the future. There's also no substitute for hard work. Unfortunately, there's no magic formula that'll fast forward you through to success. I think that in this world of instant gratification, people quite often forget this. Also learn from your failures and learn quickly. Mentors can help with this, and lessons learned from failures can set you up for achievements in the future. Lastly, from a leadership perspective, treat others like you'd like to be treated, and the positive culture will follow from that. Bring people into your ecosystem who can add advice and value, rather than just filling roles that need filling and telling people what to do. So bring the right people on board into your ecosystem as early and as frequently as possible.
So Ross, what is your final message to iTWire viewers and readers, and to your current and future customers and partners?
We're extremely proud of Greenbox Group's carbon neutral achievement, which has taken a long time and a lot of resources to achieve. But we're also proud of our 22-year history of servicing Australia and New Zealand's largest corporate, government, and education institutions, all of whom have required a trusted partner to handle their sensitive electronic lifecycle considerations in a safe, secure, and sustainable way over the last 2 decades. We've achieved a number of really incredible milestones along the way, with the most recent carbon neutral status achievement being right up there. This carbon neutral status now adds value to our current and future customers' operations because when they contract with Greenbox for their new or end-of-life assets, the services that Greenbox provides has a neutral impact on their carbon inventory, meaning that when they need to report on their ESG requirements, which are becoming a lot more significant, they can have comfort in the fact that all of the ICT lifecycle services that Greenbox Group provides are carbon neutral. Lastly, we believe in the power of paying it forward. So if any viewers, readers, customers, or partners would like to know more about how we achieve carbon neutrality, then feel free to reach out anytime. And I'd be more than happy to walk you through the journey on how Greenbox Group became carbon neutral.
Well, Ross Thompson, CEO of privately owned IT asset lifecycle management company Greenbox. It's really inspirational to hear of the results you've had over the past couple of decades in the move towards carbon neutrality. I wish you the best of success, and I hope we can talk again in the future.
Really appreciate it, Alex. Thanks for your time and look forward to our next chat.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.